Speak less, think more. How many times have we found ourselves caught in a conversation, speaking words that we didn't mean, simply to fill the silence? How often do we blurt out our opinions, our judgments, without truly considering whether they serve any purpose at all? Have you ever stopped to think how much more powerful our words could be if we spoke less and thought more? In our daily lives, we rush to speak, to share, to react. The world is noisy, filled with endless distractions, and it seems almost impossible to pause for a moment of reflection. Yet, within this constant rush, there is a question we must ask ourselves. What do we gain by speaking without thought? What does it cost us in terms of clarity, peace, and wisdom? The great Stoic philosophers, like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, knew the true power of silence and contemplation. They understood that the most important battle was not the one fought in the world outside, but the one within. The battle to control our emotions, our impulses, and our thoughts. It is through this inner discipline that we find freedom and strength. Speaking less is not just about choosing silence. It is about choosing clarity. It is about understanding that true wisdom doesn't come from the noise of the world, but from the quiet reflection of the mind. When we silence the noise, we hear the voice of reason, of purpose, of control. If you're ready to embrace a new way of thinking, a new way of living, then you are in the right place. At Stoic Greetings, we are on a journey together, seeking self-control, fortitude, and peace. But let me ask you this. Did you know that there are so many views on this channel but only 0.2% of viewers subscribe? That's a small number. If you're someone who believes in the power of self-mastery and Stoic wisdom, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. It helps us grow and reach more people who need this message. Now, let us begin. The path to a disciplined mind starts with a single step. Will you take it? The noise of the world. In the quiet of the night, have you ever found yourself overwhelmed by the sheer volume of your thoughts? The mind races, memories, worries, desires, and regrets all blend together into a whirlwind of noise. It is as if the very world inside your head is a storm. But the reality is, this noise isn't just confined to our minds. It is everywhere. In the world around us, too, noise surrounds us. We live in a society that thrives on chaos, on constant stimulation. The news, the conversations, the distractions, all of them pulling us in 1,000 directions at once. Take a moment to think about your day. How many hours have you spent scrolling through your phone? Watching the news? Engaging in conversations that had no purpose other than to fill the silence? How often do you hear the world shouting at you, demanding your attention, convincing you that you must react now, or else you will miss out? This noise is not just physical, it is mental. In every moment, the world is feeding us information, opinions, and emotions. The constant barrage of stimuli shapes our thoughts, our desires, and our behaviors, often without us even realizing it. This is the very essence of the noise we face. It is external, but it creates an internal response, a reaction. And in that reaction, we lose our peace, we lose our sense of control. Now, let us step back for a moment and reflect. Can you hear the sound of your breath? Can you feel the stillness of the space around you? Do you hear the silence in your thoughts when you choose to pause, even for just a second? The Stoics understood that we are not simply passive recipients of the world's noise. We are active participants. It is within our power to control how much noise we allow into our lives and how we respond to it. The noise, both external and internal, is not the enemy. The enemy lies in how we react to it. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, wrote about this very idea in his Meditations. He said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, the noise around us does not define us. It is the noise we let into our minds that shapes our character. The noise can become a source of wisdom, or it can become a source of chaos. The choice is ours. But how do we begin to separate ourselves from the noise? How do we regain our ability to think clearly in a world that never stops talking? The first step is awareness. We must become conscious of the noise. We must acknowledge that it is there, and that it affects us. Only then can we begin to distance ourselves from it. This doesn't mean we must retreat from the world or abandon our responsibilities. It means learning to control the noise. It means learning to control how we respond to it. When we look at the world through the lens of the Stoics, we realize that we are not here to react. We are here to observe, to understand, and to act with purpose. In every situation, we have a choice. Will we react impulsively, or will we pause and choose our response with wisdom? Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, often spoke about the importance of self-control. He believed that it was not the events themselves that disturb us, but our reactions to them. He wrote in his letter to Lucilius, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The noise we hear, the pressure we feel, it is not the true source of our distress. It is our response to it that causes us to suffer. In the modern world, the noise is louder than ever before. We are bombarded with endless information, opinions, and emotional triggers. But we must ask ourselves, what is truly important? What deserves our attention? What truly deserves our response? Imagine a world where we only spoke when we had something valuable to say. Imagine a world where we didn't react immediately to every piece of news, every comment, every tweet. What would happen if we chose to pause, to think, to reflect before speaking or acting? This is the world the Stoics envisioned. It is a world where wisdom reigns, where we choose our words carefully, and where our actions are guided by reason, not by the noise of the world. It is a world where silence is not the absence of noise, but the presence of thought. But in order to create this world for ourselves, we must first understand the impact of the noise on our lives. We must examine how much time we waste reacting to things that are outside of our control. The Stoics understood that it is not the world that disturbs us, it is our judgments about the world. It is our belief that we must react to everything that happens. When we understand that we cannot control everything that happens around us, we gain the power to control how we respond. We gain the power to choose silence, to choose thought, and to choose action from a place of clarity. Think about the times when you've reacted impulsively, whether it was getting angry during a conversation, making a hasty decision, or simply saying something you didn't mean. These moments are not a reflection of who you truly are. They are a reflection of the noise that you allowed to dictate your response. Now, think about the moments when you've taken a step back, when you've paused before reacting, when you've chosen your words and actions carefully. These are the moments when your true strength shines. These are the moments when you align yourself with the Stoic way of life, a life governed by reason, self-control, and wisdom. The noise of the world will always be there. It will always try to pull you in, to distract you, to make you feel as if you must react to everything. But the true power lies in your ability to choose your response. The true power lies in your ability to speak less, think more, and act with purpose. This is the practice of Stoicism. It is not about eliminating the noise. It is about learning how to live with it, how to filter it, and how to respond with wisdom. It is about becoming the master of your own mind, so that no matter what noise surrounds you, you can always find the quiet space within to think clearly and act with intention. The world will continue to be noisy, but you can choose to be silent. You can choose to think. And in doing so, you will discover a peace that no external noise can ever take away. The wisdom of restraint. We live in a world that celebrates speed, instant gratification, and constant noise. We are encouraged to act on impulse, to speak immediately, to react without hesitation. But have you ever wondered why, in our rush to respond, we so often feel regret, confusion, or frustration afterward? Could it be that we are missing something essential, something that the wise have always known? The Stoics teach us that wisdom is not found in immediate reaction or in the first thought that comes to our mind. True wisdom is found in restraint, in the pause before action, in the deep breath before we speak. The Stoic philosophers, men like Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Seneca, all understood this profound truth. We cannot control the events around us, but we can control how we respond to them. And often, the most powerful response is silence. To restrain ourselves is not about avoiding action or shutting ourselves off from the world. It is about understanding that our first impulses, whether they are to speak, to argue, or to react, are often driven by emotions, impulses that we have not yet examined. Emotions, as powerful as they may seem in the moment, can deceive us. They can lead us into unnecessary conflict, hasty decisions, and regret. This is where the wisdom of restraint comes in. Epictetus famously said, "We are disturbed not by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens." This means that it is not the world that causes us distress, but our reactions to it. And so we must ask ourselves, why are we in such a hurry to react, to speak, to act on our feelings? If we wait, if we give ourselves the space to think, we may find that we don't need to react at all. Restraint, in this sense, is not a lack of action. It is an active decision to wait, to think, to reflect. It is the strength to say, "I will not be ruled by my emotions. I will rule my emotions." And this is not easy. It takes practice, it takes time, and it takes a commitment to personal growth. But the rewards are immense. Think of the countless times in your life when speaking too soon has led to regret. Perhaps it was a sharp word said in anger that hurt someone you loved, or an opinion shared hastily that you later realized was unfounded. How many moments have you wished you could take back, to pause, to reflect before acting? The Stoics would say that this is the cost of failing to practice restraint. In the world of the Stoics, silence was not seen as weakness. In fact, it was seen as strength. The power to choose silence is a demonstration of self-mastery. It shows that you are not ruled by your immediate impulses or the external world. You are the master of your own mind, and through that mastery, you are able to live with greater peace, clarity, and wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, often reminded himself to pause before acting, especially when confronted with anger, frustration, or provocation. He wrote in his Meditations, "When you are about to say something, ask yourself, is this necessary? Is it kind? Is it true? And is it the right time?" This is the essence of restraint, not simply refraining from speaking, but carefully considering the value of your words before they are spoken. What Marcus Aurelius understood, and what we must understand as well, is that not every thought needs to be spoken. Not every feeling needs to be expressed. Our minds are filled with countless thoughts and emotions throughout the day, but not all of them deserve our attention. Not all of them deserve to be shared with the world. One of the greatest gifts of Stoicism is the understanding that we are not our thoughts. We are not our emotions. We are the ones who choose how to respond to them. This is the power of the Stoic mind, the ability to step back, to examine our thoughts and feelings, and to choose a course of action that aligns with our values, not our impulses. Let us take a moment to reflect on a simple but powerful exercise. The next time you feel the urge to speak, to react, to give in to an emotion, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, is this reaction truly in line with who I want to be? Will this spoken word serve the greater good, or will it only contribute to the noise? By practicing this simple form of restraint, we begin to regain control of our lives. We begin to master our emotions, rather than allowing them to control us. And in that mastery, we find the true power of wisdom, the power to act from a place of thoughtfulness, calm, and clarity. The ancient Stoics also recognized that our interactions with others could be a source of great suffering if we did not practice restraint. In their view, much of the conflict in the world is born from a lack of self-control, from people reacting without thinking, from speaking words in anger or frustration. When we respond to others with the same emotional charge that they have directed toward us, we only feed the cycle of conflict. But when we choose to pause, to consider our words, to respond from a place of inner peace, we break that cycle. In this way, silence becomes a powerful tool of peace. It is not the absence of communication, but a different kind of communication, one that speaks not through words, but through actions and presence. Silence, in this sense, is not an escape from the world. It is a conscious choice to engage with the world from a place of calm, thoughtfulness, and control. One of the most profound teachings of Stoicism is the recognition that our happiness does not depend on the external world, but on our internal state. We cannot control the actions of others, the events that unfold around us, or the circumstances we face. But we can control how we respond to them. And that control begins with the simple act of restraint. By learning to restrain our words and our actions, we begin to build a fortress around our minds. We create a space where we can think before we act, where we can respond with clarity and wisdom, rather than reacting out of impulse or emotion. This fortress, built on the foundation of Stoic restraint, becomes the key to living a life of true freedom and peace. The world may be filled with noise, but the Stoic knows that it is in the silence that we hear the voice of reason. In the silence, we find the strength to rise above the chaos. In the silence, we discover the true power of the mind. And in the silence, we come to understand that it is not the things we say, but the way we live, that defines us. So, the next time you feel the urge to speak, to act, to react, remember the wisdom of restraint. Remember that true strength lies in silence, in the pause before the storm, in the ability to choose calm over chaos. By practicing restraint, you do not make yourself smaller. You make yourself stronger. You make yourself wiser. You make yourself free. In the end, the Stoic teaches us that the battle is not fought in the world outside, but in the world within. And it is through restraint, through the wisdom of thinking before speaking, that we begin to win that battle. The power is in our hands. The choice is ours. Echoes of the Stoic mind. Imagine for a moment you are standing at the edge of a cliff. The wind is strong, howling past your ears, pushing you to move, to act, to follow the urge of the moment. But you stand still, grounded in your place. Why? Because you understand that every action has consequences. You understand that your thoughts, your emotions, and your reactions must be controlled. You are no longer a slave to the world's demands, You are a master of your own mind. This is the essence of Stoicism, the ability to control the inner chaos, the understanding that we must choose how we respond to the external world. To be a Stoic is not to live in a world of detachment or indifference, but to live with deep awareness of what is within our control and what is not. The Stoic mind is not concerned with the noise of the world, the fleeting desires, or the empty distractions. It is concerned with what lies within. The Stoics teach us that our thoughts, our decisions, and our emotions can either serve us or destroy us. It is up to us to make the choice. The power of reflection. Reflection is one of the most powerful tools we have. The ancient Stoic philosophers, such as Marcus Aurelius, spent much of their time in reflection, thinking about their actions, their emotions, and their place in the universe. They did not act impulsively, but carefully considered every choice. Reflection is not about retreating into isolation or being passive. It is about learning to understand ourselves, to gain clarity, and to act from a place of wisdom, not reaction. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, wrote in his Meditations, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." This was not just advice to the world, it was a reminder to himself. He understood that the path to wisdom was not in endless debate or the pursuit of outward success. It was in self-awareness, in taking responsibility for one's thoughts and actions, and in living according to one's principles. When we reflect, we give ourselves space to think, to separate ourselves from the noise of the world, and to connect with our true selves. In this space, we can choose our responses carefully, and we can determine what is truly important to us. The Stoics believed that every moment of reflection was an opportunity to strengthen our character and clarify our purpose. The importance of inner peace. In a world that is constantly demanding our attention, it is easy to lose our inner peace. We are bombarded with opinions, information, and distractions. Every day, we face a storm of emotions: anger, fear, jealousy, and frustration. The Stoic teaches us that the key to inner peace is not in avoiding these emotions, but in mastering them. We cannot control what happens in the world, but we can control how we respond to it. Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This simple yet profound statement reveals the heart of Stoic philosophy. Our reactions are the only thing within our control. The world will continue to throw challenges at us, but we have the power to choose how we respond. When we master our emotions, we free ourselves from the tyranny of impulse. We stop reacting out of anger, fear, or frustration, and instead, we choose to act with wisdom, patience, and self-control. In doing so, we cultivate a peace that no external circumstance can disturb. This inner peace is not a passive state. It is an active and powerful force that allows us to face life's challenges with strength and clarity. The role of self-discipline. Self-discipline is the foundation upon which the Stoic mind is built. It is the ability to control our impulses, to delay gratification, and to act according to our values rather than our desires. In a world that encourages instant pleasure and emotional reaction, self-discipline is a rare and valuable quality. Yet it is precisely this discipline that enables us to maintain our inner peace and to live in accordance with our true purpose. The Stoics believed that self-discipline was essential not just for personal growth, but for a life of virtue. Virtue to them was the highest good. It was not about fame, wealth, or power, but about living with integrity, wisdom, courage, and justice. Self-discipline is the practice of aligning our actions with our values, even when it is difficult or uncomfortable. When we practice self-discipline, we begin to break free from the chains of our emotions and desires. We stop being controlled by the external world and start controlling ourselves. This is where true freedom lies, not in the ability to do whatever we want, but in the ability to choose our actions deliberately in alignment with our highest principles. The Stoic approach to suffering. Suffering is a universal experience. We all face hardship, loss, and pain. The Stoic mind does not deny suffering, but rather embraces it as an opportunity for growth. The Stoics understood that suffering is an inevitable part of life, but it does not have to define us. How we respond to suffering is what matters most. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." His words remind us that life is fleeting, and much of our suffering comes from our inability to accept this truth. Instead of fighting against the inevitable, the Stoic teaches us to embrace it, to use suffering as a teacher, and to grow stronger through adversity. When we face pain and loss, we have two choices. We can be consumed by it, or we can use it as an opportunity to build our character. The Stoics did not shy away from suffering, but rather, they faced it head-on with the understanding that it could lead to greater wisdom and strength. By accepting suffering as a part of life, we are able to rise above it and transform it into an opportunity for growth. The echo of wisdom. The echo of the Stoic mind is not a loud, forceful voice. It is a quiet, steady presence that guides us through the chaos of life. It is a reminder to pause, to reflect, and to choose our actions with wisdom. The Stoic does not rush, does not react impulsively, but takes the time to understand the situation before responding. In this way, the Stoic mind becomes a source of clarity in the midst of confusion. This wisdom is not something that comes easily or quickly. It is cultivated over time, through practice and reflection. Just as a stone is shaped by the steady flow of water, our minds are shaped by the consistent application of Stoic principles. Every moment of reflection, every choice to act with restraint and wisdom, brings us closer to the ideal of a Stoic life. To be a Stoic is to understand that life is not about chasing pleasure or avoiding pain, but about living with purpose, integrity, and self-control. It is to recognize that our true power lies not in what happens to us, but in how we respond to it. And it is through the practice of reflection, discipline, and inner peace that we cultivate a mind capable of facing life's challenges with strength, clarity, and grace. The discipline of silence. Imagine yourself in a crowded room, surrounded by people talking, some laughing, some debating, some boasting. Amidst this cacophony, how easy is it to join in, to speak your mind, to contribute to the noise? At first, the instinct is strong. You might feel the pressure to fill the space, to make your presence known. But what if, instead of rushing to speak, you paused and simply observed? In the world of constant chatter, the act of silence may seem like a rebellion. We live in an age where opinions are shared freely, sometimes recklessly. We are encouraged to speak our minds, express ourselves, and be heard. But how often do we stop to ask ourselves, is this the right time to speak? Does my voice add value? Or am I merely responding to the noise around me? The Stoic philosopher knows the value of silence. Silence is not an absence, it is a presence. It is the space where wisdom grows, where emotions settle, and where reason takes root. When we speak less, we allow our minds the time and space to think clearly. We are no longer slaves to our impulses or the expectations of others. Instead, we become masters of our own thoughts, our own responses, and our own actions. Let's take a step back for a moment. Think about a time when you spoke hastily, perhaps out of frustration or to fill an awkward silence. Did your words have the desired effect? Or did they, instead, make the situation worse? We've all been there. How often have we said something in the heat of the moment, only to regret it later? The damage caused by uncontrolled speech can be irreversible. Relationships are broken, opportunities lost, and our own peace of mind shattered. Yet, the true Stoic doesn't react in such a way. The Stoic waits. They observe. They listen carefully to what is being said, not just with their ears but with their minds. They think before they speak, ensuring that their words are chosen with care and intention. The Stoic silence is not one of passivity but of active thought. They understand that in silence, they can understand themselves better, assess their emotions, and respond with clarity rather than impulse. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." Silence is the first step in living well. It is in the quiet moments of our lives that we confront our true selves, that we understand our desires, our weaknesses, and our strengths. When we are constantly speaking, constantly reacting, we never give ourselves the space to discover who we truly are. Silence is a form of discipline. It is a choice, an active decision to resist the urge to react, to fill the air with words. It is a choice to embrace the power of restraint. In this world, it is easy to get swept up in the noise of daily life, the social media posts, the group chats, the constant commentary. But the Stoic knows that true peace comes not from engaging in every conversation but from choosing when and how to engage. Think of a river. When the water is calm, you can see the depths clearly. You can observe the rocks beneath the surface, the fish swimming quietly, the currents moving gently. But when the river is full of waves and rushing water, everything is chaotic. The surface is turbulent, and you cannot see below. The same is true of our minds. When we fill our lives with constant noise, we cannot see clearly. Our thoughts are clouded, our emotions are wild, and our judgment is compromised. But when we choose silence, when we allow ourselves to reflect and think, we create a space for clarity. We can understand our emotions without being controlled by them. We can hear the voice of reason without the distractions of the world around us. This is the discipline of silence. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, spoke about the importance of restraint in speech. He said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This simple but profound advice reminds us that listening is just as important as speaking, if not more so. When we listen, we learn. When we speak, we reveal what we know, but also what we do not know. By speaking less, we open ourselves up to greater understanding. However, silence is not about withdrawing completely from the world. It is about choosing our words carefully. It is about knowing that what we say has the power to build or destroy, to heal or harm. In choosing silence, we empower ourselves to speak with purpose, to contribute meaningfully when the time is right. The Stoic does not speak to fill a gap, but speak to enrich, to share wisdom, to communicate clearly. Now, think about the people you admire most, whether they are famous figures, close friends, or family members. Chances are, these are people who do not feel the need to speak constantly. They're the ones who listen more than they talk. When they do speak, their words carry weight. Their silence gives them power, not weakness. They have learned the discipline of silence, and through it, they have gained the ability to choose their words with intention. The Stoic philosopher's silence is a shield. It protects them from the chaos of the world. It prevents them from reacting hastily to every challenge. It allows them to maintain their peace of mind, even when the world around them is in turmoil. In silence, they gather their strength. In silence, they are able to act with clarity and purpose. We are constantly bombarded with noise. There are distractions everywhere, advertisements, social media, the opinions of others. But the true Stoic stands firm in the face of this noise. They do not allow it to dictate their actions or their emotions. They have the power to remain silent when necessary, to wait for the right moment to speak, and to speak with wisdom and purpose. In our daily lives, we can practice this discipline of silence. When faced with a difficult situation, we can take a moment to breathe, to pause, and to think. Instead of rushing to respond, we can choose to observe, to reflect, and to act with intention. We can silence the noise within ourselves, the voices of anger, fear, and frustration, and make space for calm, for reason, for wisdom. The discipline of silence is not about avoiding the world or withdrawing from it. It is about engaging with the world in a more thoughtful, deliberate way. It is about understanding that our words matter, that they have consequences, and that we must choose them wisely. By speaking less, we allow ourselves to listen more, to learn more, and to act with greater wisdom and purpose. The Stoic path is not one of passivity or inaction. It is a path of strength, of self-control, and of clarity. The discipline of silence is a tool we can all use to walk this path more effectively. It is a choice we make every day, and every moment, to pause before speaking, to think before acting, and to remain calm in the face of chaos. So, next time you find yourself in a conversation, ask yourself, do I need to speak now? Will my words bring value to this situation? Or is silence the more powerful choice? By choosing silence, you are choosing strength. You are choosing clarity. You are choosing the path of the Stoic, the path of wisdom, the path of a disciplined mind. Emotions, tyrants of the tongue. Have you ever noticed how a single emotion can hijack your entire day? One moment of anger, fear, or frustration can consume your thoughts, twist your perception, and even cause you to say things you don't truly mean. Emotions, when left unchecked, are like wild horses, running freely and leaving destruction in their wake. Yet, in the practice of Stoicism, we learn that we can tame these wild horses. We can regain control over our reactions, and by doing so, we stop our emotions from taking control of us. Emotions, by their very nature, are strong and powerful. They arise quickly, like a sudden storm, and can overwhelm our senses. The ancient Stoics, however, understood that the problem is not in the emotions themselves, but in how we choose to react to them. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, often warned against the dangers of uncontrolled emotions, writing, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." This is to say that our emotional reactions, our anger, our worry, our fear, are often magnified by our thoughts. When we are angry, we tend to replay the situation in our mind, fueling the anger further, making it grow stronger and more destructive. But if we learn to step back, to pause, and to think more carefully, we can choose not to let these emotions control us. Think about a time when you said something in the heat of the moment, words that you instantly regretted. What triggered that moment? Was it anger? Frustration? Perhaps a feeling of inadequacy? The truth is, emotions like these arise from our thoughts. A judgment, a belief, a perception. But we are not helpless in the face of these emotions. We have the power to choose our response. As Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, famously wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside of it. Realize this, and you will find strength." The first step in overcoming the tyranny of emotions is to recognize them when they arise. This may sound simple, but it requires practice and awareness. Emotions do not just appear out of nowhere. They are triggered by our perceptions and thoughts. When we feel anger rising within us, we must ask ourselves, why am I feeling this way? Is this emotion based on reality, or is it a result of my own distorted thinking? Stoicism teaches us that most of the time, our emotions are based on judgments that we have made about events, not the events themselves. The events themselves are neutral. They are neither good nor bad. It is only our perception of those events that gives them meaning. For example, let's say you're stuck in traffic. It's frustrating, and you can feel the anger bubbling up inside of you. But the traffic itself is not inherently frustrating. It is simply a situation. It's your judgment of the traffic, your belief that it's preventing you from achieving something that causes the frustration. In this moment, you have a choice. You can allow the emotion of anger to take over and let it shape your entire experience, or you can pause, breathe, and recognize that the traffic is beyond your control. You can choose to accept it for what it is and find peace within that acceptance. This is not an easy practice. In fact, it takes years of training to learn how to control your emotions in this way. But the more we practice, the more we realize that our emotional reactions are not inevitable. We can change the way we respond. It's like learning to control a muscle. At first, it's weak, and the emotion may overpower us. But with time and patience, we build emotional strength, and we are able to choose calm over anger, reason over impulse, and peace over chaos. Epictetus, another great Stoic, taught that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. When emotions arise, we must remember that they are not facts, they are fleeting reactions. We do not need to let them define us. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters, he said. This idea is at the core of Stoic philosophy. The events of the world are outside of our control, but our reactions to those events are entirely within our power. A key concept in Stoicism is the idea of virtue. Virtue, according to the Stoics, is living in accordance with reason, not allowing emotions to cloud our judgment or actions. Emotions like anger, fear, and jealousy are seen as disturbances to our rational nature. When we allow these emotions to take over, we are not living virtuously. We are living impulsively, as slaves to our passions. But when we learn to master our emotions, when we choose reason over emotion, we are living according to our true nature as rational beings. And this is where true freedom lies. Stoicism is not about suppressing emotions, it is about understanding them, acknowledging them, and learning not to be controlled by them. It's about recognizing that we are not our emotions. They are temporary states that will pass if we don't feed them. Imagine standing outside in the middle of a storm. The wind is howling, the rain is pouring, and the thunder is crashing all around you. But instead of being swept away by the storm, you remain calm, centered, and still. This is what Stoicism teaches us to do with our emotions. Instead of being swept away by the storm of anger, fear, or jealousy, we learn to stand firm, grounded in reason and inner peace. One powerful practice that Stoics use to overcome destructive emotions is negative visualization. This involves imagining the worst-case scenario. What would happen if the very thing you fear were to come true? By visualizing this, you can mentally prepare yourself and gain a sense of control over the situation. For instance, if you fear losing your job, you might visualize what your life would look like without it. You might realize that while it would be difficult, it is not the end of the world. This practice helps you to distance yourself from the emotional charge of the situation, allowing you to respond with clarity and calmness instead of fear or panic. Another Stoic practice that helps with emotional control is the idea of the dichotomy of control. This is the understanding that some things are within our control and others are not. We cannot control other people's actions, the weather, or the past, but we can control our own thoughts, reactions, and decisions. When we focus on what is within our control and let go of what is not, we free ourselves from unnecessary emotional turmoil. We stop blaming the world for our feelings and instead take full responsibility for how we choose to react. It's also important to remember that emotions are not inherently bad. In fact, they can serve as useful signals. When you feel fear, it can be a sign that you are about to face something unknown or dangerous. When you feel sadness, it can be a signal that something important has been lost. The key is not to suppress these emotions, but to examine them and understand what they are telling us. Rather than letting them dictate our behavior, we learn to respond thoughtfully. As we learn to manage our emotions, we begin to understand one of the central tenets of Stoicism, that our inner peace is far more important than anything happening outside of us. External events, whether they are good or bad, are fleeting and often beyond our control. But the way we respond to these events, the way we maintain our inner calm and clarity, is something we can control. And it is through this mastery of our emotions that we find true freedom. The Stoics were not cold, emotionless beings. They understood emotions deeply. But they also understood that true strength lies in the ability to control them, not let them control us. It is through this mastery of self that we cultivate wisdom, fortitude, and resilience, qualities that are needed to live a life of meaning and purpose. So, when you feel those emotions rising up, anger, fear, jealousy, remember, you are not a slave to them. They do not define you. You have the power to step back, to pause, to think, and to choose your response. In doing so, you take back control, and with that control, you find the strength to live a life of true peace and wisdom. The fortress of thought. We live in a world where distractions are endless. Every moment is filled with noise, people talking, news flashing, social media buzzing. It's almost as if we're trained to be constantly engaged, constantly reacting, constantly thinking without ever taking a step back. But what happens when we let our thoughts control us, instead of the other way around? Imagine, for a moment, that your mind is a fortress. A strong, secure structure, built to withstand the storms of emotion, the pressures of life, and the endless chatter of the world. This fortress is made up of your thoughts, your beliefs, your ability to reason, and your power to choose your response to the world around you. It's not something that can be built overnight. It takes patience, practice, and the discipline to control the impulses that often lead us to react impulsively, without thought. Think about the times in your life when you've been overwhelmed by emotion. Maybe you were angry and said something you later regretted. Or perhaps you were anxious, allowing your worries to take over, spiraling into negative thoughts that left you drained and helpless. These emotions, these reactions, are the enemies at the gates of your fortress. They are the forces that, if left unchecked, will break down the walls of your mind and leave you vulnerable to the chaos outside. But here's the good news: you can defend your fortress. You can strengthen your mind, sharpen your reasoning, and build a wall of discipline that will protect you from the emotional turmoil that so often sweeps us away. The Stoic philosophers understood this concept better than most. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, spent much of his time reflecting on his thoughts and emotions, always striving to maintain control over them. In his meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside of it. Realize this, and you will find strength." This simple yet profound statement is the key to building your fortress. It reminds us that the true power lies within us, the ability to control our reactions, our thoughts, and our emotions, no matter what external forces are at play. To build a fortress of thought, we must first understand the importance of self-awareness. Every time an emotion arises, whether it's anger, fear, frustration, or sadness, we must take a step back and observe it. Instead of reacting immediately, we must pause. We must ask ourselves, why am I feeling this way? Is this emotion based on reality, or is it something I've created in my mind? How can I choose to respond in a way that aligns with my values and principles? This moment of reflection is crucial. It is in this space, between stimulus and response, where our true power lies. The Stoics believe that our emotions, while natural, should not dictate our actions. Instead, we must rise above them, using our reason to guide us. When we learn to master our thoughts, we become less vulnerable to the storms of life. Now, let's consider an example. Imagine you're at work, and a colleague criticizes you in front of others. In that moment, your first instinct may be to react, to defend yourself, to argue back, or to feel embarrassed. But what if, instead, you paused? What if you took a deep breath, observed your feelings, and then chose to respond calmly and with dignity? This is the strength of a well-built fortress. By choosing to pause and reflect, you've already taken control of the situation. You've chosen not to let your emotions control you. Instead, you are in the driver's seat, using your reason to guide your response. This is the Stoic way, a way of living that allows you to remain calm, composed, and focused, even in the face of adversity. But building this fortress isn't easy. It requires constant practice. Every day, we are faced with situations that challenge our ability to maintain control. But with each challenge, we grow stronger. Each time we choose to pause, reflect, and act with reason, we are fortifying our mental walls. One of the most powerful tools in building a strong fortress of thought is the practice of journaling. Marcus Aurelius himself kept a journal throughout his life, writing down his thoughts, reflections, and struggles. This daily practice allowed him to clarify his thinking, process his emotions, and stay focused on what truly mattered. By putting our thoughts on paper, we gain clarity. We can see where our minds wander, where we are vulnerable to distractions, and where we need to strengthen our resolve. Another critical practice is mindfulness. By becoming aware of our thoughts in the present moment, we can prevent ourselves from getting lost in the past or the future. Stoics like Epictetus taught that we must focus on what is within our control and let go of what is not. Mindfulness helps us do this by bringing us back to the present moment, where our thoughts and actions are most powerful. Building a fortress of thought also means letting go of the need to control everything around us. We cannot control the actions of others, the weather, or the challenges that life throws our way, but we can control how we respond. This understanding is at the heart of Stoic philosophy. We must learn to accept what we cannot change and focus on what we can control: our thoughts, our actions, and our reactions. In the Stoic mindset, every challenge is an opportunity for growth. Every emotion that arises is a chance to practice self-discipline and self-control. When we view the world through this lens, we stop seeing obstacles as burdens and start seeing them as tools for building our fortress. Each moment of discomfort is a chance to strengthen our resolve, to refine our thinking, and to become more in control of ourselves. The more we practice, the stronger our fortress becomes. Over time, we develop a sense of inner peace and stability that is unaffected by the storms of life. We no longer react impulsively or emotionally. Instead, we respond with reason, with wisdom, and with clarity. Our thoughts become our greatest allies, guiding us through every situation with calm and purpose. In the end, the fortress of thought is not about perfection, it's about progress. It's about continually striving to improve, to grow, and to become the master of our own minds. The more we practice, the more we reinforce our mental walls, creating a strong, unshakable foundation that will serve us through life's challenges. Remember, the mind is the most powerful tool we possess. By strengthening it, we build a life of purpose, resilience, and wisdom. Just as a fortress protects its inhabitants from harm, so too can our thoughts protect us from the chaos of the world. But only if we are willing to put in the work. Only if we are willing to make the choice, every day, to speak less and think more. So, how strong is your fortress? Are you willing to fortify it with discipline, with self-awareness, and with the wisdom of the Stoics? The choice is yours. Every thought you have is a brick in your fortress. Choose wisely. Build your fortress. And let your thoughts be the guardians of your peace. Inner fire, outer stillness. In the rush of daily life, we often find ourselves swept away by the current of emotions, demands, and distractions. It's as if we are constantly battling against an unseen force, struggling to maintain our sense of peace. The world moves at a fast pace, pulling us in every direction. And yet, in the midst of this chaos, there is a question we must ask ourselves. How can we remain calm, composed, and centered in the face of it all? The answer lies within the Stoic ideal of cultivating inner fire and maintaining outer stillness. It is not about suppressing your emotions or ignoring the world around you. Instead, it is about learning how to control the fire within you, your passions, your desires, your impulses, so that you can face the external world with a calm and composed mind. The Stoics believe that we, as human beings, have the ability to control our reactions, even in the most difficult of circumstances. We are not slaves to our emotions or to external events. Instead, we are the masters of our own thoughts and actions. This idea, however, is not always easy to put into practice. It requires a deep sense of discipline, a willingness to face discomfort, and the courage to confront the chaos of life with clarity and strength. Inner fire is not something to be feared. It is the driving force that propels us forward in life. It is our passion, our ambition, our desire to achieve something greater than ourselves. But like any fire, it can easily become destructive if not carefully managed. Without control, our emotions can take over, leading us to react impulsively, to speak without thinking, and to make decisions that we later regret. The Stoics, however, taught us that the key to mastering this fire lies in cultivating virtue, the highest form of human excellence. Virtue is what allows us to transform our inner fire into something that serves our greater purpose, instead of letting it burn us up from within. It is through virtue that we learn to temper our passions, to guide our desires, and to approach the world with wisdom and patience. In this context, outer stillness becomes the natural result of mastering our inner fire. When we learn to control our impulses and emotions, we can face the challenges of the world with a sense of calm and composure. We are no longer at the mercy of our environment or our reactions. We have the power to choose how we respond, no matter the situation. Take, for example, the practice of mindful breathing. It is a simple yet powerful technique that allows us to anchor ourselves in the present moment, to pause before reacting, and to regain control over our thoughts and emotions. In times of stress or anxiety, we can close our eyes, take a deep breath, and allow ourselves to simply be. By doing this, we create a space between the stimulus, the thing that triggers us, and the response, the way we react. This space is where our power lies. But this kind of control doesn't happen overnight. It is not something that can be mastered in a day, a week, or even a year. It requires consistent practice, a commitment to self-discipline, and a willingness to confront the challenges that arise within us. As Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, wrote in his Meditations, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." In many ways, we are what we think. Our thoughts shape our perceptions of the world, and our perceptions influence our actions. If we allow negative or destructive thoughts to take root, they will grow and manifest in our lives. But if we cultivate thoughts of clarity, purpose, and peace, we can weather any storm. Our thoughts become the foundation upon which we build our actions and our reactions. Another powerful Stoic lesson on inner fire and outer stillness comes from the philosopher Epictetus, who taught that the key to a peaceful life is to focus only on what is within our control and to let go of what lies beyond it. We cannot choose our external circumstances, he wrote, but we can always choose how we respond to them. This mindset is the essence of Stoic wisdom, to embrace the things we can change and accept the things we cannot. It is the ultimate practice of inner fire and outer stillness. When we are able to shift our focus away from the chaos of the world and towards our own inner landscape, we begin to experience a sense of peace that transcends external events. We understand that while we cannot control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. This is the essence of Stoic fortitude, remaining strong and steady in the face of adversity, not because we are immune to pain or suffering, but because we have learned to manage it. To cultivate inner fire and outer stillness, we must first confront the truth about ourselves. We must face our fears, our weaknesses, and our impulses without judgment. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The pain we experience in life is often magnified by our thoughts, fears, and anxieties. By understanding that much of our suffering is self-inflicted, we can begin to take control of our minds and emotions. This doesn't mean that we will never feel anger, sadness, or frustration. We are human, and these emotions are part of the human experience. But it does mean that we can choose how to respond to them. We can learn to sit with our emotions, to examine them, and to decide whether or not they will control us. This is the practice of Stoic self-mastery. The more we practice this, the more we begin to see a shift in our lives. We start to experience moments of true stillness, moments where we are fully present, fully engaged with the world, but not swept away by it. We begin to realize that true peace does not come from external circumstances, but from our ability to remain calm in the midst of them. It is in these moments that we truly become free. The greatest challenge, perhaps, is learning to quiet the mind. In a world that is constantly demanding our attention, it is difficult to find the space to reflect, to think, to be. But it is in this space that we find our strength. When we stop reacting impulsively, when we stop filling the silence with unnecessary words, we open ourselves up to a deeper understanding of who we are and what we truly want from life. In the end, the practice of inner fire and outer stillness is not about achieving perfection. It is about progress. It is about becoming better today than we were yesterday, about making the conscious decision to speak less and think more. It is about understanding that our true power lies not in the words we speak, but in the thoughts we cultivate. So, the next time you find yourself caught in a whirlwind of emotions, pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Reflect. And in that pause, you will find the strength to respond with wisdom, with courage, and with calm. This is the path of Stoic living, where inner fire fuels our growth, and outer stillness anchors us in peace. The eternal practice finale. Now, we've come far together. And before we part ways, let me speak to you, not as a teacher, not as a voice, but as someone who walks this path just like you. Someone who stumbles, who reflects, who rises again. This final part is not the end. It is a beginning of something that never ends. Have you ever wondered why the strongest people you meet are often the quietest? Why the people who have the most control over themselves rarely need to prove anything with loud words or empty actions? It's not because they have nothing to say. It's because they have trained themselves to only say what matters. They have built a fortress within their mind, a place where thoughts are weighed carefully, where emotions are not allowed to rule, and where silence is not emptiness, but power. That is the Stoic way. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside of it. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the truth we've been trying to uncover together through this journey. We don't need to control the world. We need to control ourselves. The world will always test you. People will provoke you. Disappointment will visit you. Pain will try to make a home in your heart. Loss will take things from you, sometimes even people you love. And chaos? It never sleeps. But you are not made of smoke. You are not a leaf blown around by the wind of every opinion, every emotion, every hardship. You are stone beneath the storm. You are fire without smoke. You are silence with meaning. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to understand yourself. Every day, the battle begins again. You wake up, and the voices begin, the voices of doubt, anger, fear, distraction. And your task? It's not to argue with them. It's to observe, to listen without reacting, to speak only when your words are stronger than your silence. Because silence is not weakness. Thinking before speaking is not hesitation. Choosing peace over reaction is not cowardice. It is power. It is control. It is wisdom. Now, maybe you failed before. You've said things in anger. You've reacted too quickly. You've broken your own peace to answer a world that didn't deserve your voice. But that doesn't matter now. What matters is this: you are still here. You are still breathing, still capable, still alive. And as long as you are alive, you are not too late. Epictetus taught us, no man is free who is not master of himself. You are not chasing perfection. You are practicing discipline. And the Stoic path, it doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to show up every day, to practice, fall, rise, and continue. There will be moments where you want to scream, when silence feels like suffocation, when thinking seems too slow in a fast world. But hold that space. Own it. Let others waste their energy in noise. Let them fight shadows. Let them race toward emptiness. You stay still. You stay focused. You stay silent until your words are soaked in meaning. And remember this. This life you have, this short, passing, precious life, it is not meant to be scattered in arguments or lost in trying to be heard by those who cannot listen. It is meant to be lived with courage, with honor, with mastery. Seneca said, "As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters." And what makes it good? A calm mind, a controlled tongue, a steady heart, a soul that knows when to act and when to wait. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to prove to be worthy. You don't need to win every battle, only the one inside you. If this journey has meant something to you, if these words have helped you see things in a new light, then don't let it stop here. Carry it forward. Practice it in silence, in solitude, in the middle of noise and chaos. Practice when no one is watching, because true strength doesn't need an audience. It only needs you. And as we close this series, let me leave you with this. You were never weak. You were just unfocused. You were never lost. You just hadn't looked inside long enough. You were never voiceless. You were just too full of noise to hear your own wisdom. So choose now. Choose the harder path. Choose the quiet power. Choose to speak less, think more. And finally, before we go, did you know this? There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% subscribed. That's a number we can change with your help. If this series gave you even one moment of clarity, one spark of strength, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Stoic Greetings. Let's grow this movement. Let's bring more people back to themselves, back to the Stoic path. Because this is not the end. This is only the beginning. Now rise. Speak less. Think more. Be eternal.